The moment their hands touched, it happened.
Get away from him right now.
Hannah shouted, looking at Cody as if she had seen something terrifying. Cody is 5 years old, but this is the first time he's met Hannah. As if an electric shock had passed through her, Hannah quickly pulled her hand back. Of course, neither I nor my husband, Ryan, could understand what was going on. What does she mean by getting away from Cody? We were finally meeting for the first time, so why would she say such a thing? It even seemed cruel. Ryan tried to stay calm and asked her what was going on.
Mom, what's wrong? Did Cody do something?
Don't you feel anything?
Ignoring our panic, Hannah said that. What on earth is she talking about? She let out a short sigh before she spoke.
Listen, he is being targeted by a strong malevolence right now.
A strong malevolence? Ryan and I exchanged puzzled looks. Who could be harboring such ill will? I can't think of anyone. As I kept thinking about it, Ryan suddenly stood up. He returned after a while, holding a laptop.
Could it be this person?
He opened a video in front of Hannah, who stared intently at the screen. I didn't think she would be able to tell just by looking at this, but suddenly, Hannah's eyes widened.
This is the one. The source of the malevolence is this person. I'm sure of it.
Then Hannah started muttering something that concerned us. My name is Kate Hudson. My husband, Ryan, and I run a bakery, and today, as usual, the shop is busy. We start our mornings early, making sandwiches, arranging freshly baked bread, and tidying up the storefront before opening. When the time comes, customers start coming in, eager for the freshly baked bread. We enjoy casual conversations, and when I recommend the seasonal specials, our customers smile and say, "That sounds delicious." Now, we have more regular customers, and I'm really happy to chat with them. I used to be just another customer at this bakery. But as I kept coming back, I found myself drawn not only to the bread, but also to Ryan, the owner. That's how our relationship began, and we eventually decided to get married. When we got married, he told me.
Actually, I've been divorced once before. When I quit my job to start this bakery, I got divorced from my first wife.
The way he spoke, as if squeezing out the words, made me realize how bitter that memory must be for him.
She said she couldn't handle the financial instability. But I chose to have my own store.
That's the kind of person I am, he said. There might be times in the future when he would prioritize the shop over the family. He might not be able to be as involved in raising our kids. We talked a lot, worried a lot, and still decided to stay together. It's okay, we'll figure everything out, and I'll make sure it all works out. I took his hand and smiled. After that, we visited Hannah, his mother, to greet her and got married. Ryan and I were filled with happiness, believing we could overcome anything that came our way. Even though Hannah is elderly, she lives alone in a rural area, far from where we live. According to Ryan, Hannah has a strong spiritual sense and gets tired easily around people. I don't have any sense for spirits or ghosts, so I don't really understand that. But according to Hannah, there are times when it's a blessing not to be able to sense these things. That's why she prefers to live surrounded by nature, and both Ryan and I respect her wishes.
Even if I'm not physically close, I'm always watching over you two with my heart.
That was Hannah's favorite saying. Even though it was a strange phrase, it somehow made me feel reassured and safe. The year after Ryan and I got married, we were blessed with a baby boy, and we named him Cody. Watching our son grow every day brings us so much joy. I want to capture even the smallest changes in photos. Though I feel a bit of sadness as he gradually becomes more independent, I know he'll keep growing like this. By the time he turned 5, he had become quite talkative. But sometimes, he would say strange things. he'd happily wave and say, "Goodbye," to people passing by, or he'd say something like this to someone at the park.
"Hey, someone's riding on you."
This person was someone who always walked their dog in the park, but no one was riding on them. Not even the dog. Another time, at the grocery store during checkout, he asked the cashier, "Who's piggybacking on you?" He said it with such an innocent smile that it made the other person feel uncomfortable and confused. When I told Ryan about it, he was very surprised.
Maybe he's inherited my mom's gift.
You mean like it skipped a generation?
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't let him talk too much outside.
It's hard to control what he says at preschool, but we started making sure to remind him to zip his lips as much as possible when we went out. But even then, he's still a 5-year-old, so there are limits. Even though he's our child, there's something mysterious about him. If he's inherited Hannah's gift, maybe we should get some advice from her. Hannah has never met Cody in person. When Cody was born, there was a terrible outbreak of illness across the country. Now that things have settled down, I started thinking about consulting Hannah soon. Around the same time that I was worrying about our son's strange comments, Ryan's bakery also began to experience some changes. It wasn't that sales were improving or that we were getting media attention, nothing like that. Sadly, people started posting nasty comments about the bakery on social media. They said things like the bread was soggy, the sandwiches smelled, or the owner was rude. Ryan was really troubled by this.
I always serve fresh bread, so why? And was I really that rude?
He grumbled as he drank a cold beer at night. Whether it was because of these posts or not, we noticed fewer customers coming in. Of course, we also used social media to post about our seasonal bread specials and announce campaigns. Some customers even came in after seeing those posts, and our customer base had started to grow until this happened. In this age of social media, customers might believe what they read online and decide not to visit the store. I don't think we'll lose all our customers overnight, but this isn't good. We really need to turn this around somehow. One day, while I was sweeping in front of the store, getting ready to open, I noticed a trash bag left out front. I picked it up, wondering what it was. What is this? Hoping it wasn't anything dangerous like drugs or poison, I looked inside. It turned out to be kitchen waste. Why would a bag of what looked like ordinary household trash be dumped here? Who would do something like this?
Kate, what's wrong? Did something happen?
Ryan came over, seeing me frozen in place in front of the store. When I told him that someone had dumped kitchen waste, he looked puzzled for a moment. But then he quickly laughed and said,
Don't worry about it. It's probably just a mistake. Here's how you deal with it.
He tossed the bag into the commercial trash bin behind the store. But should we really not worry, as Ryan said? As I stared at the silent trash bin, I couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was going to happen. A week later, more kitchen waste was dumped. This time there were 3 bags, and they smelled awful. Ryan frowned at the sight of the 3 bags. As he threw them into the trash bin behind the store, he grumbled, "We're not a dumping ground, you know." This happened a few more times, just as we were starting to get fed up with it. Then something strange began happening with Cody, too. He suddenly started waking up in the middle of the night, crying and shaking with fear.
"Mommy, I'm scared."
He would wake up in the middle of the night, come to me, and start crying. He had never done this before, so why now? "Did you have a bad dream?" I asked, but Cody just shook his head and buried his face in my lap, quietly sobbing.
"Go away. Stay away."
Ryan and I stayed with Cody until he fell asleep. That night, after Cody was asleep, Ryan sipped his beer and said thoughtfully,
If this keeps happening, maybe we should report it to the police.
You mean about the kitchen waste? But we had already thrown the trash away, and no one had seen who was dumping it. I wasn't sure if the police would do anything about it. After discussing it, we decided to install a small security camera outside the store to keep an eye on things. Around this time, the nasty comments on social media seemed to be affecting our business, and customers became scarce. Sales weren't coming in as usual, and Ryan seemed really down. I wondered how I could cheer him up. The only consolation was that our regular customers still believed in us. Let's focus on the people who appreciate us rather than those who attack us.
Kate.
Your bread is the best in the world, isn't it? Have confidence, I said, patting Ryan on the shoulder.
You're right. Alright, maybe it's time to try out some new menu items.
As if all his worries had been swept away, Ryan eagerly started brainstorming new bread ideas. His eyes sparkled like a child working on an art project. I loved seeing that look on his face. When we first met, he used to talk about different types of bread on every date. As the nostalgia washed over me, the living room table became covered in notes filled with various ideas. But just as we were getting excited, something happened that felt like a cruel joke. A week later, the store's walls were vandalized with graffiti. Someone had drawn a familiar cartoon character, and next to it, they wrote "Terrible Bread" in large letters. The worst part was that the graffiti was done in paint, so it wasn't going to be easy to remove. People passing by were shocked and seemed upset. Since our store is on a busy street, there's a lot of foot traffic during the day, but hardly anyone around at night. Because of this, no one saw who the culprit was. Ryan kept his mouth tightly shut, his face stern. He clenched his fists, his frustration evident. I felt the same anger and helplessness.
No matter how much someone dislikes my bread, there are things you just don't do.
The security camera had caught a shadowy figure, but it was too dark, and the angle made it hard to see the face. Ryan decided to file a police report and have them investigate. He was determined to make sure the culprit wouldn't get away with it. Strangely, after that, the trash dumping and graffiti incidents stopped. It's possible the vandal noticed the security camera while painting the graffiti. If that's the case, the same person might have been responsible for the trash bags too. Even though the pranks had stopped, the nasty comments online continued. Sometime later, on a day when the store was closed, Hannah called Ryan.
Hello, the store is closed today, right?
Yeah, it is. What's up?
I've been worried about you too. May I come to visit?
What, all of a sudden?
Both Ryan and I were surprised. This was the first time Hannah had ever asked to visit us on her own.
For some reason, I just can't shake this feeling of worry.
Her reason was mysterious, but we had no reason to refuse. So we told her it was fine, and Hannah took a series of trains to come see us. Hannah arrived around 3 p.m., and Ryan and I greeted her with smiles. She was beaming, holding a box of sweets as a gift. This was the first time Hannah and Cody were meeting in person. Cody isn't usually shy, but even so, he seemed a bit nervous around his grandma, Hannah. I wondered if he was sensing something. Seeing Cody's reaction, Hannah smiled warmly and said,
Hello, Cody. It's nice to meet you. I'm your grandma.
But Cody, as if saying a stranger had come, hid behind me. He peeked out cautiously, staring at Hannah.
It's our first time meeting, isn't it? Oh, I brought a little gift for you.
Hannah said as she handed over the sweets she had brought.
Would you like some candy?
Seeing the package labeled chocolate, Cody's eyes lit up. He reached out his hand excitedly and said, "Ah." Since we had warned him not to talk too much in front of others, Cody had stopped properly pronouncing words around anyone except Ryan and me. That habit came out even in front of Hannah. I'm sorry, he still can't speak properly. I found myself hastily explaining, just like I usually do when we're out in public. For some reason, I felt embarrassed and guilty for giving Hannah the same explanation. I was worried she might say something like that. He's 5 and still can't talk? Or, what kind of education are you getting? And so forth. But Hannah didn't seem bothered at all as she handed Cody the sweets. Then, in that moment when their hands touched, it happened. As if struck by an electric shock, Hannah quickly pulled her hand away.
Get away from him right now.
She shouted, staring at Cody as if she had seen something terrifying. Of course, neither Ryan nor I understood what was happening. What does she mean by getting away from Cody? It didn't feel good to hear her say something like that. Why would she say such a thing? It even seemed cruel. Still shaken, I tried to stay calm and asked for an explanation.
Mom, what's wrong? Did Cody do something?
Don't you feel anything?
Ignoring our confusion, Hannah said this. What on earth is she talking about? When you see, touch, or talk to Cody, is there something to feel? Of course, there's the joy of his growth or the happiness of having him close, those kinds of things. But from Hannah's reaction, it didn't seem to be about that. She might be referring to something spiritual, but Ryan and I were completely in the dark.
You two are really lucky, you know.
Hannah let out a short sigh before saying,
Listen, he is being targeted by a strong malevolence right now.
A strong malevolence? Ryan and I exchanged puzzled looks. Who could be harboring such ill will?
I'm not sure either, but it's coming from a woman.
I can't think of anyone.
It's almost like a curse. Are you sure there's no one who comes to mind?
Who could be holding such a deep grudge? Could it be one of the preschool teachers? I wanted to believe it wasn't a fellow mom or one of our customers. As I kept thinking about it, Ryan suddenly stood up. He came back after a while, holding his laptop.
Could it be this person?
He opened the laptop in front of Hannah and clicked on one of the files. It contained footage from our security cameras. He played the video showing the person who had been vandalizing the store with paint, and Hannah stared intently at the screen. It was dark outside, and the person was dressed in black, wearing a black cap, making it hard to make out any details. The figure was small, but that alone wasn't enough to identify it as a woman. I thought Hannah wouldn't be able to tell anything from this, but suddenly, her eyes widened.
This is the one. This is the person behind the malevolence. I'm sure of it.
As I stood there in shock, Hannah began muttering to herself.
That's right. This person, it's Miley, isn't it?
Miley? Her?
He looked at Hannah, disbelief in his eyes. Who on earth was Miley?
She's my ex-wife. But why now?
But how do you know it's her? How can you be so sure it's Miley?
I can sense it.
It felt like I had stepped into a TV show. Can people really tell these things just by sensing them? I was so taken aback that I couldn't close my gaping mouth. Hannah then took a small sachet out of her bag and handed it to Cody. It had a sweet fragrance.
This is a charm. It will protect you from the malevolence, so keep it with you.
I wondered to myself if something like this could really help. But Cody lifted the sachet to eye level and, with a serious expression, nodded firmly. After that, we talked with Hannah about what had been going on and had some coffee. During that time, Cody stayed silent, clutching the sachet tightly in his hand. A few days later, events took a sudden turn. Not long after Hannah's visit, we received a call from the police. The officer in charge told us that they had identified the person responsible for the graffiti and the defamatory posts on social media.
Yes. I see. Is that so?
After the call ended, Ryan slumped and said weakly.
It turns out the culprit was Miley, after all.
Both Ryan and I were shocked. Just as Hannah had said, the person on the security camera was indeed Miley. But why would Miley do something like this to our store? From what Ryan had told me, Miley had remarried after their divorce. To a man from a well-off family who was wealthy himself. If that's the case, why would she still have any lingering feelings toward Ryan or this bakery?
I don't understand it either. I'll explain everything tonight.
Since the call came in during the day, we decided to focus on the store for the time being. It was impossible not to think about Ryan's ex-wife. Could she be trying to tear our family apart? That thought crossed my mind too. Thankfully, working with customers allowed me to momentarily forget about Miley. That night, after Cody had gone to bed, Ryan shared what the police had told him while sipping on a cold beer and snacking on nuts.
It seems that Miley and her husband couldn't have children.
Miley had cooperated with the police investigation and opened up about her situation. She had even undergone fertility treatments, but without success, and her relationship with her husband's family became strained. Constantly asked, "When will you have kids?" and being labeled a useless wife, Miley gradually lost her confidence. Hearing those things must have been emotionally draining for her. During this difficult time, she heard through the grapevine that Ryan had remarried. Ryan guessed that a mutual friend must have mentioned it. That friend must have also told Miley about our son, Cody. As Miley struggled with the pain of not being able to have a child, she started to resent Ryan for his happiness, leading her to act out in such a way. That's just jealousy. To think that such a trivial reason led to defamatory posts and vandalism with paint. It's frightening to imagine someone being so consumed by envy and hatred. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for Miley. I'm sure all she really wanted was to have a child and live happily with her husband. It wasn't anyone's fault. Whether or not someone has a child is something only fate can decide.
I do feel sorry for Miley, but we've suffered too.
The cost of cleaning up the graffiti and the damage from the defamatory posts were significant. Just as he had declared earlier, Ryan insisted on seeking compensation.
Cody must have been really scared too.
Ryan downed the rest of his beer in one gulp as he spoke. That's right. Cody had been targeted with malicious intent, even to the point where Hannah said it was like a curse. I couldn't forgive that either. If Hannah hadn't come to visit, Cody might still be too frightened to sleep peacefully. Thanks to the sachet, Cody has gone back to sleeping soundly, just like before. The sweet, subtle fragrance seems to calm him down. If there was one thing I worried about, it was the possibility of Miley seeking revenge or casting another curse. When I consulted Hannah, she surprised me by laughing and saying,
You don't need to worry about that.
"Really? Why is that?"
When you curse someone, it comes back at you many times over.
So, according to Hannah, Miley wouldn't be able to curse Cody again because the curse would eventually return to her. Since I had little experience with such things, I responded with a weak "Oh, I see." In any case, if Cody was safe, that's all that mattered. We found a trustworthy lawyer and filed a compensation claim against Miley for what she had done. We had no idea how Miley would react. What if she started harassing us even more, making more defamatory posts, or pulling worse stunts than before? It was terrifying to think about what might happen if things escalated beyond graffiti. While dealing with those worries, we were keeping an eye on things. But to our surprise, the compensation was paid promptly. According to one of Ryan's friends, Miley's husband and his family provided the money. Maybe they were worried about their reputation and didn't want any scandals, so they handled it quickly. Since then, the defamatory posts on social media have stopped, and there haven't been any more incidents at the store. We were relieved. We also heard that Miley and her husband divorced after the whole ordeal. Apparently, neither he nor his family could tolerate Miley's behavior any longer. Harassing an ex-husband and his business was something they couldn't forgive. Not long after that, Miley was hospitalized. It's unclear whether it was due to a mental health issue or some other illness. But it made me wonder if, just as Hannah had said, the curse had somehow rebounded on Miley. There's a saying, what goes around comes around, and I think that's exactly what happened here. When you hold a grudge against someone, it eventually comes back to you. Even someone like me, who isn't sensitive to spiritual things, started to believe that just a little. Now, when Cody says something strange, I try to listen without getting confused. As for Hannah, she ended up moving in with our family. Given her age, we were worried about her living alone. At first, Hannah hesitated, but Ryan and I managed to convince her. Though she seemed uneasy during the first few days after moving in, she soon settled in and got used to it within a week.
Living in a bakery, in such a busy place.
It was hard to believe that she had once said that, because now she relaxes comfortably in the back of the bakery. Hannah says, "Everyone here is so nice, and I don't sense any malevolence." Because of that, Hannah has been able to spend her time peacefully. By the way, Hannah has another hidden talent. She can predict the near future of people and animals she meets. It's like she can sense what's going to happen, just as she senses other things.
I can see it only when I want to,
Hannah said, laughing like a mischievous witch. One day, Hannah casually mentioned something to one of our regular customers, and it turned out to be true. Hannah, what did you tell her?
That young woman, the one in the suit, I told her she would get a promotion soon, so she shouldn't quit her job.
What? Sure enough, that woman was a regular customer who always bought sandwiches from us. She seemed to work in sales, always carrying a bag full of documents, with her nails perfectly manicured. But lately, I had noticed she seemed down. A few days later, she came back, practically skipping as she approached Hannah. Just as Hannah had said, she really had been promoted. And that wasn't all. When someone stopped by while walking their dog, Hannah said, "Your dog is suffering. Take it to the vet." Though the owner was puzzled, the dog did indeed start showing signs of distress the next day, and a serious illness was found. Both the owner and I were shocked. With incidents like these piling up, Hannah secretly became popular as the fortune teller.
Well, I don't want too many people gathering around, so I'll just talk now and then.
Because of this, Hannah's fortune-telling became a special service only for regulars. This, among other things, helped the store regain its popularity. The seasonal menu was expanding daily, as Ryan turned his many ideas into reality. Meanwhile, Cody had regained his energy and had become talkative once more. Hannah being around to play with him was likely a big reason for this.
"Grandma, there's someone over there."
Cody would still point to empty spaces and say things like that. But Hannah would respond to each of Cody's observations, teaching him to distinguish between the living and the non-living. Spending time with Hannah seemed to be helping Cody gradually control his ability to see things. He no longer pointed to empty spots in public. Even the cashier at the grocery store we frequent had started smiling at him. Seeing Cody chat happily with everyone, both Ryan and I felt relieved. I believe that this ordinary, peaceful life will continue. And that no matter what challenges arise, our family will face them together.